Welcome to Bungalows for Bachelors. We are going to get into designing this guy right here. We're going to do the gravity loading first, and we are going to start by taking care of the top of the building. So, what's the first thing we need to do? Well, this is our roof. First thing we need to do is get familiar with what the heck this structure is like. So, it looks like it's a pretty simple little thing. It's mostly a long rectangle with a little porch that sticks out in the front. There's that little porch that we see in the front. Looks like there's a little there's a thing in the back. What do you call that? A patio? Yeah, patio. So there's a notch out of the back of the house where there's an open patio here. So I'm already can tell you we're gonna need some beams to hold up that thing right here. They've even been drawn in right there. So and then we're gonna need some beams on the porch, just like the architect specified here, to hold up the porch. And it looks like there's a vaulted ceiling in here. The ceiling slope with roof means I want this to be a vaulted ceiling. And there's a cedar wrapped beam here. Okay, so there's some beam that's going to hold up the ridge of the top. It's going to go across. That's what it looks like. And this line is telling me that's where I want to transition to flat ceiling again. So this kitchen's going to have a flat ceiling at 8 feet. And right here, it's going to stop and it's going to go up. And it's going to go up into the vaulted ceiling area. So that's important to know. Everything else looks like it all says 8-foot ceilings. So patio 8-foot ceiling, cool. So the building's 20 feet wide by 54 feet long. All right. Not really care about the cabinets. That's the roof. Pretty simple. Okay. So, pretty plain little house. First thing we got to do when we're dealing with something like this is support the top of the ridge. Support the ridges, the hips, and the valleys. If we got to brace those things, then we got to take care of that. So, we need to know where this line is on our floor plan so we can draw it, and this line as well, because that's a separate ridge. So I want like to note here, this dashed line represents the outside of the framing. When this ridge is actually in the actually framed, this ridge board is going to start here. It's going to run all the way back to here, at the very least, where the existing roof rafters probably come down to there. And the rafters do that on the other piece of the roof. So that ridge board is actually going all the way back and sitting on that wall. So that's what's happening. But oops. So we'll take those off. All right. So let's get those ridge lines over here on our floor plan, or we can design with them. I'm going to take a line and bring it down. All right, so I need to be about in the middle here. So I know this 20 is right in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right down below that 20, hit the middle, and I know this ridge beam is centered, so I'm just going to follow the center of the ridge beam. Okay, so that's one ridge line that I got to deal with, and the other one's right here. Bring that down. Remember what number I stopped at, but let's get close enough. That's probably right in the middle, so let's go right there. Okay, so I got those two ridge lines to deal with, and let me bring up the opacity on that. Okay, so how are we going to treat this project? Well, there's two ways we could do this. The first way is to brace it up just like we do anything else. We see how much height we have with clearance and we try to brace down to walls and beams. And that would work just fine. Nothing wrong with that. But we also know, because this is a super simple shape, we also know that all the way down this shape, we have a 20-foot wide structure. And 20 foot's about the max you can buy boards that aren't custom or weird. So you could buy 20-foot, let's say 20 2x6 ceiling joist, and run them all the way across this thing from one wall all the way to the other continuously. I happen to know that. I could buy that. And the rafters are going to, they're going to be starting at the ridge, going down to the wall like this, right? So because I have this super plane situation going on, wow, what I have is I have this going on over my whole house all the way down. If that looks familiar to you, then you were paying attention when we were talking about trusses. I've got a simple triangle that I can create a single ceiling joist all the way across, and I got two rafters that are going to go up and make a roof. So if I build this, and it's a truss, and I connect everything properly, that's the important part here at the heels, then I resist the wall thrust and I don't need to brace my ridge up because I've already supported it by creating this truss. So I could do that, and that would work all the way from the back side of the house all the way to this wall right here. I'd have to stop right here because I have a vaulted ceiling here and I no longer have a flat ceiling. But I could do that, man. I could go all the way across and I wouldn't have to brace anywhere. So that is one method, but for the practice sake, I'm going to go through bracing as if we could not do this because that might be a little bit better for learning purposes. Okay, so get rid of this stuff and we will get right into it. So got my ridges I need to brace. Well, let's start at the front. Okay, so what do I got going on right here? What is this going to be framed like? Well, this is a pretty small, short little thing, so I really need to think about what is this going to be framed like? Well, I have effectively, if I were to draw a section of this and do this, look at it from the front, I would see a dropped beam, a dropped beam, a ceiling joist, and a rafter, and another rafter, right? I'd see that. So I'd be building that over this little, I don't know, 8 foot wide, yeah, 8 foot wide porch. It's only 6 feet deep. So if I'm doing 24-inch on center rafters, then I'm going to have one here, one here, one here, and then I'm going to already be at the wall. So, and this is a flat ceiling. Yeah, so I do have the ceiling joist here. So because this is such a small, insignificant thing, it really wouldn't be a big deal to do a truss here and just nail this guy properly per the International Residential Code requirements. And then boom, I'm done. I don't need to support this ridge with any braces or anything. Don't need to do it at all. If I did need to, what I could do, since I'm only spanning 6 feet here, and my braces need to go every 4 feet, then I could very easily just take a brace. Let's make it red. I could take a brace and let's see, I need to do 4 foot distance apart, and 6 minus that 4 foot distance is going to give me 2 feet. So if I go 1 foot in here, I need to brace, and 1 foot in here. Oh, change this again. I would need to brace. So I could easily do that and just brace down to the beam, and then my ridge would be fine. I could do it either way. I could do both. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to do a truss here. I'm going to design for the truss on the porch because it's so insignificant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a dimension, cross this, and say truss truss over porch. It's going to remind me to do that. Truss over porch. All right. And I'm going to get rid of that ridge line. So great. Porch is taken care of. So the next thing I'm going to want to take care of is going to be in here. Well, the actual ridge of this vaulted ceiling is this beam. So there's not even a ridge board here because there's a beam. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this line back to here because it doesn't really represent that's representing the ridge board that I need to brace. And this is a beam here. So boom, I've already got a beam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the beam color in here. We're going to make the beams red. And I'm going to do this. Actually, the beams were green last time, weren't they? Let's try to stay consistent. All right. So I'm going to set the beam into the wall because the beam has to sit on the wall. The beam exists inside the wall. See that? Okay. And there's my ridge beam. Okay, so I know my seal and my roof is held up here. I'm good to go. What else? So now I'm going to go down this ridge line and brace every 4 feet. So I'm going to use a cool little trick that allows me to easily get my 4-foot mark. Where am I? Let's see. Why didn't it work? Let's just do this. Okay. So that is 3'10". That's about 4 feet. So if I start here and, oh, come on. Oh my goodness. Okay. More room. So I'm going to start here, center my circle a little bit past that. So I now know that this, the center of my circle is, this is a 4-foot radius circle. So when I put this circle here, I know that's 8 feet down my ridge. That would be 4 feet down my ridge. So I'm just going to use that to help draw. Move it around. All right, so now let's do some roof braces here. So I've got, I don't need to support here because this is already inside this wall. There will be a pony wall built up on top of this whole thing to, put sheetrock on to find that space. So the first one I need is a bow right here. Well, I could probably brace over that wall, but I need to get an idea for how much clearance I have here. So my building's 20 feet wide, and my roof pitch is a 612. So what I could do is just some math to figure out approximately what I'm doing here. So I'm going to write out what I'm going to do in my head here. So I'm going to just use the principle of similar triangles here. So I have a 6 and a 12. And I also have some other distance, 10, because half of my building, right? My building is 20 feet wide. 10 feet from the outside of the building. And then what is this number over here? So to find this, I would multiply 6 times 10 and divide by 12. I'll write out my work here so you can understand what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm doing is it doesn't really matter which way you do this because it all works out the same, but I'm going to call this letter X. Okay, so X is to 6 as 10 is to 12. So when I said I'm going to take 10 multiplied by 6 divided by 12, I was just doing this in my head. I got in trouble for this in school, but I'm not in school anymore. All right, so if I were to simplify this math, on one side, 10 divided by 12 is just some number, so I'm going to leave it there. So my new equation, 10 divided by 12, and I want 6 to be on this side of my thing, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. Let's multiply that by 6, right? 6's cancel out, multiply this side by 6. So the new equation that I have is 10 over 12 times 6 equals my mystery side that I want to know, right? So that's where I got that math. These are just ratios, similar triangles. So 10 divided by 12, multiply that by 6. There's many ways you could do this. The answer is 5. 3, 4, yeah, that's 3. Yeah. So the answer is 5 feet. Okay. So I have 5 feet right here from the top of the wall to a little bit above the top of the rafter, because what happened was my wall has a thickness, and I started at the outside of the wall with my 10 feet, and my rafters technically start there. So this height's not 5 feet, but let's call it 4.5 feet. Let's call it 4 feet to be safe, right? And now remember the rule on bracing. You don't want to brace steeper than a 45-degree angle. And if 4 feet is our height of clearance to brace with, then 4 feet is as far as we can go horizontally. So this is my roof brace ridge right here. I'm trying to brace down to a wall. I can go 4 feet horizontally without going over 45 degrees. So if this is shorter than 4 feet, I'm good to go. I also happen to know this circle is a 4-foot radius. So I know that when I'm bracing from right here, as long as I can brace anywhere inside this circle and I'm not going over 45-degree angle. Okay, so that's going to be a double benefit of using this little circle guy. All right, so let's keep going. So my next brace would be on this point right here. And I happen to be next to a wall here, so I'll just go there. And then I'm going to drag this up, put it right there. This is kind of just getting close enough. And I need to go right here, so I'll just go right there. Now, if I were trying to be wise about this, I'd kind of want to balance this ridge. I wouldn't want to put all these braces on the left wall because because at that point then I'm like, okay, if there is some side loading, it's all going one way, and that might be kind of annoying or cause a problem later. So I'm going to alternate which side I do them on, and that'll kind of take care of it. What? Why did this go so far? Okay, so now I'm going to put one here. And I could put one here, but I got a header here because this is a doorway. So instead I'm going to deviate a little bit because I can. And I'm going to say, I'm going to hit the middle point and I'm going to come back here at the wall. And that is still less than 4 feet because that's not even close. So I can brace anywhere inside my circle. So I can do that. And I can take here, brace over here to this wall. And where these actually end up in the final world of things is not, doesn't have to flawlessly match this, but you're just trying to get the right idea of how many braces do I need, about where are they going. And in this case, I only have a wall on one side, so I'm going to have to use that wall. It's not a problem. Okay. So now my ridge would be braced. That's how I'd put my roof braces in. So my ridge is taken care of. The roof is held up. I'm going to do truss here. I got a beam here, and then the rest of this is going to be braces down through my house. So I need to think as well about my rafters. Okay, how far do I need to, what size rafters do I need, right, over my whole roof? Well, because the whole roof is basically the same width, and I am starting at the wall and I'm ending in the center, that whole width is 10 feet. I happen to know a 2x6 Southern Yellow Pine #2 rafter can go 24 inches on center and span about 11 feet. And this is only 10 feet, so I'm good here. So I'm going to just notate that I want to use 2x6 rafters on my whole roof, and this is much smaller than that, so that's fine. I'll use 2x6s there. So I might go over here to my roof plan and just kind of grab this dimension and pull it across here and say that I'm going to do 2x6 rafters, Southern Yellow Pine, #2, at 24 inches on center. Whole roof. Okay, cool. So I wrote it down somewhere, so that's what I'm planning on doing. Okay. Now, because I'm spanning clear from my wall to my ridge, I don't need to add any special purlins or extra supports for my rafters. They're fine. So I'm good to go there. Rafters have been designed. The ridge has been braced. We're good to go there. So what else might we need to do? Well, we don't have any more purlins, so the roof layout is basically done. We're going to move on to the ceiling now.